Hey guys, live stream starting now. Let me know when you come in how the sound is. I always ask that, and I always avoid using my earbuds now because they really are terrible. Um, but let me know when you come in how the sound quality is, and hit the like button. I'm gonna talk a little bit about this idea of global movements, read a little bit from my book, talk about this idea of maybe more of an integral left, um, bringing some of those ideas into play. Thank you for letting me know that I'm all good with the sound. And, just kind of bat around some stuff that I'm thinking about, um, some of the things that I'm reflecting on, what's been happening, where the show's going. And then, of course, as always, a major part of the exercise with this is catching up the YouTube channel. So I'll be taking your super chat questions, maybe doing some impressions, whatever you ask. So if you're coming in, uh, please make sure to hit the like button, hit subscribe if you haven't yet, hit us with the super chats if you can. If you're a patron, let people know how great being a patron is at patreon.com/TMBS. And if you haven't yet and you have the capacity to do so, definitely go and become a patron today. So I've been thinking a lot about the conversation, if you haven't watched it yet, um, with Shaki, um, from a couple of weeks ago, um, on the South Africa American connection, the Black Lives Matter movement, race, and the class dimensions of the policing crisis. And really, I mean, among other things, it's an amazing conversation, and I really, really would read him as much as you can in Africa as a Country. Africa as a Country is an indispensable website. And actually, speaking of which, I want to say today would be the 95th birthday of Patrice Lumumba. And if you haven't yet, it's available on our Illicit Histories. Watch the Illicit History of Patrice Lumumba that we did with Milton Alamati. That is excellent, as are all of our Illicit Histories, which are actually, as of now, they're all unlocked. And you can watch all of them on our Illicit History playlist. And but in that conversation, I mean, really having this focus on all the things that we do. They do go out for free. All of the Illicit Histories are first for patrons, and then they become unlocked. But of course, patrons are what makes everything possible. But they all become unlocked, and all of our Illicit Histories so far are available and unlocked on the Illicit History playlist. In the conversation, one of the things that really came forward for me, and obviously is a big theme for me, is really the idea that there's an extraordinary amount that people in the United States organizing around race, class, police violence, um, have a lot to learn from South Africa. Both the liberation struggle of the ANC against apartheid, and also the way those legacies have persisted, because there has not been a second wave of liberation. There was the initial revolution defeating apartheid, but then a lot of the core economic arrangements and inequalities were put in place. Thank you, Pythagoras. Were kept in place as the rules of the global economy locked in so sharply in the early 1990s that it did not leave the African National Congress government room to do basically serious social democracy in South Africa. And one of the legacies of that is that South Africa has an extraordinarily brutal and violent police force. And, again, as all these conversations go to, and you could read Adolph Reed and Cedric Johnson's work on policing, you never can escape the base. You can never escape the class dimension. And so that's one element of what I want to reflect on here. But the other thing is that we really need to figure out, particularly in the United States, how to become genuinely global, how to become cosmopolitan in a grounded sense. because, and Alex Huckley wrote a good piece in Damage Mag, and that's another one. Damage Mag is an excellent place that I recommend. And he wrote a critique of the global deployment of these movements as an expression of American soft power. Now, does that capture the entirety of all of it? No. And anytime I think there's mass synchronized uprisings, obviously this is inspiring, this is important, we need to build off of. But what I want to really focus on, and he makes a compelling case, that a lot of this is American export. And I want to start seeing those channels open up in both ways equally. I mean, a big focus on this show is the idea that Americans need to learn from, as an example, the Workers' Party in Brazil. They need to really understand what's happening in South Africa right now. They need to be deeply entwined with different political dynamics in Europe, in Asia, as well as all the varieties of different sort of political formations, particularly in Latin America. And so, and in order for that kind of cross-pollination to form and make movements way more powerful and not make things simply just insulated, repetitive, and often dead end and failed kind of US pop politics right now. And it's so clear in the conversation that occurs around South Africa and policing, why I was so excited about that episode and why I would read Africa as a country. And, just related to that, I just want to quote a little bit. Forgive me. I'm going to quote a little bit from my book, Against the Web, Cosmopolitan Answer to the New Right. We become global by traveling more in real life and online. Yeah, I do. I think there is definitely value to travel. But, look, it doesn't need to be, it should not be. I couldn't travel at all when I was young. My family was super poor. So it was completely a process of reading, of, finding out what the BBC World Service was. It's a mindset, as well as access to various forms of social capital, right? No doubt about it. But I want to put as few material inhibitions around, material limitations around it as possible. And I also want to say that there are a lot of sort of discourses which are very trendy and claim towards multiculturalism that are hugely narrow, both in terms of the fact that they're anti-Marxist, identitarian, class politics, as Vivek Shibber and Adolf Reed have taught us, and not a truly globally liberatory left project. And also that they are often highly constrained North American discourses, which in the worst cases are being exported globally. And this is some of the things that Huckley identifies in his good piece. Let me just quote a little bit. This is from Against the Web. In writing this book, I took particular inspiration from Nobel Prize winning economist Amartya Sen, who, in response to the usual Eurocentric claim that that the tradition that produced human rights flowed from Greece through Rome, through Europe to America, countered that rather than a story of cultural continuity for the struggle for human dignity has always been fragmented, multicultural, and global. The West's history is hardly an unbroken train of progress towards social equality. Instead of inaccurately particularizing the concept of rights and justice as Western, we should understand the fight for social equality and justice has arisen in various forms in a variety of cultures from ancient to modern times. And of course, this is also true of the counter reactions, of the destructive forces, of the repressive forces. And this is, by the way, another reason. Zizek has a great provocative essay about, this toxicity of guilt as a motivator, this idea of essentializing evil to particular cultures and contexts. Ridiculous. All cultures, all contexts have liberatory traditions, whether they're European, African, Islamic, and Asian. They all have repressive and brutal traditions as well. No question. Now, obviously, this is complicated by the legacies of actual power in terms of imperialism, settler colonialism, and so on. but the actual traditions themselves speak to that. We can look at, as an example, Zizek, another great point he made on this show, flowing from the great CLR James, right? That the French Revolution became globally relevant after the success of the Haitian Revolution. So you see, though, that this attitude is a much more constructive one. It's looking for, first of all, a genuine globalism, not just sort of like naming names and identifying different, like we're woke, we're this, we're that, but genuinely trying to wrestle with and engage with substantively with as many different trajectories, traditions as possible. And then the way they actually cross pollinate. Like right now, if we brought in the lessons from South Africa, there would be a whole other dimension of power to some of the conversations and analysis that's happening now in the United States. So it really goes back to me always with this notion that there are universal material conditions. There is the dynamic between capital and labor that applies everywhere, east, west, north, south. That's an economic function. And then also that, yes, there are global aspirations. There are human impulses, human concerns that cut across cultures. They're not simply constrained by particularities of identity and experience. But then that crucially, as a counterweight to both standpoint epistemology, which is the idea that you can never speak outside of your own particular context, you're always simply mediated and only mediated by experience, or the traditions of racism and Western chauvinism and Euro, sort of limited Euro frameworks, that every single tradition in the world can have a profound relevance and a reading that supports our truly common struggles. And, and I think I might start using more of this kind of integral language, but we need a map that starts to synthesize these things, because we need to go back towards models of synthesis and integration, because again, and this is the other irony, is that the endless game of fragmentation that is, of course, most accentuated, as I always say, by the just grotesque toxicity of social media, is purely a function of the market force itself and is utterly contradictory to any type of collective liberatory endeavor. So anyways, I hope that made some sense. That was just some stuff I wanted to riff with you guys on. This will, of course, will keep getting more formulated with the show and getting, more deeply refined. Next Tuesday, VJ Prashad is coming on, and Stavros from CT. Actually, patrons of TMBS, you got to hit me up, because we're gonna give some advice questions to Stavi in the post game, which I'm very stoked about. I am very, very eager to do that. Yeah, definitely. I think meditation is part of the mix, without a doubt. There is an internal cultivation of this stuff, and there are parallels between internal and external structures. There's no doubt about it. So guys, I can riff for a little while longer, but now's the time to come through, if you can, with the super chats to keep everything going. Obviously, before we went into a pandemic depression, we used to do incredibly well on the super chats, and that, as I say, really helps everything move along. And so, this is another reason why we do these extra streams, because we got to even everything out. YouTube, not very favorable to independent media. You think JLP will own Tom Cotton in the Republican primary? That's just too far for me. I mean, one thing I'll say about Tom Cotton is I just think that he's a malignant force in politics. is that for Jesse? Yes, Jesse Lee Peterson would crush Tom Cotton. But I mean, honestly, I'm just going in the serious direction, because I mean, Tom Cotton, the luck with Tom Cotton is that he's totally charisma free. He is just, not an appealing public figure at all. And that stuff still counts a hell of a lot in politics. As I've said a million times, I mean, Trump has a deeply bizarre charisma, but it is a charisma. Barack Obama has a charisma, obviously. Bernie Sanders had an authenticity charisma. Kamala Harris has a charisma at times. Man, she fluctuates with that. Obviously, Bill Clinton, charisma. You know, Reagan, whatever. Tom Cotton cannot be put in a category of any of these kinds of figures, even as the sort of styles of charisma that people are drawn to are changing, which is actually one of the reasons that Kamala Harris is in tough shape, because her sort of mostly very affected kind of charisma is of a different era politically. Thank you for the super chats that are coming in. Not much to say besides hey, and thanks for doing what you do. Paige, thank you so much. As always, I mean, I'm really honored, and I appreciate all of it in every way, shape, and form. Guys, as I always say this, but if you're a patron, let folks know how much extra content you get and how great being a patron is. Also, check out the store at tmbs.fm. Those are fun. I'm definitely looking forward to rocking a Sankara shirt. Can we get an extra dose of Liz Warren salt? Well, here's the thing. I was going to run against Bernie Sanders because my daddy said that Jews are extravagant when it's other people's money. I just made her an anti-Semite. There isn't really that much depth to the comment to the. I couldn't believe it. Sam actually really thinks that Biden might pick her. I mean, look. I mean, Sam's good at these kind of reads, but I just electorally, I mean, she's not bringing anything to the table. Thank you for doing what you do. You are no need. You are so needed. Listening to what you say and analyzing everything. I'm really honored by that, as always. Thank you. FYI, Jesse Lee Peterson, Kanye has a chance. Keep doing what you're doing. I will. Beta. I became aware of global struggles while tuning into the Majority Report and TMBS. The content people absorb determine their concerns. Yes, and again, when I'm talking about though the distinction that I'm trying to do is it's not like these global struggles in the context of like, okay, well, these things are happening in the world and we should care about them and we have an obligation. Sure, that's fine, that's good, that's positive. But I'm saying that we are genuinely, there is a part of the world that is genuinely global and that things are genuinely synchronized. And so that it's not only, of course, absolutely essential to fight to free Lula or fight to free the Kurdish political prisoners from the Democratic Party in Turkey that have pioneered social democracy in Turkey and been repressed by Erdogan. It's that we recognize that these traditions, these things can help us so that there isn't that American mindset of export. I mean, that's one of the ironies of exporting all the woke poison, right? Is all the discourse is about, how, being so progressive, but really you're exporting just American hegemony. Do you like cats? What about the rest of the MR and TMBS crew? I know Matt has a cat. I do like cats. I'll admit I like dogs better, but I like cats for sure. They're great. Sometimes they make me a little, sometimes certain cats give me allergies. I had a cat growing up, which I loved. TMBS is great, to be honest. The discussion about military war games was really inspiring and illuminating. Yeah, that was last week on the post game. Joshua Kahn Russell and I talked about a RAND reports and also a military war game projecting a Zoomer rebellion. We get into a lot of fun and a lot of depth in the post game. Can we get a Chris Matthews impersonation for when he finds out that Michelle Obama is Biden's VP pick? Joe Biden is a genius. And Michelle Obama, a lot of people said a lot of things. Some people, they said, she looks like a man or whatever. And I didn't say that. But I had heard that, and then I said what I heard. But really what I was trying to say is that she is, just like Beethoven was black, Michelle Obama is the Beethoven of babes. And I'll tell you something else. I'll tell you something else. It might shock you. I think Michelle Obama's hotter than Melania. And I'd like credit for that. Is your Gorka impression still better than Sam's? I think, of course. I mean, was there any ever? I don't think there was any ever debate about that. Who pulled off the better Sebastian Gorka? Just these. The thing, though, man, is that sometimes it honestly is just so overwhelming. Like the amount of just like fucking toxic personalities in politics is awe-inspiring. Thoughts on Kanye's career. I'm assuming that's not thoughts on Kanye's career progression fave album. I have to admit, I mean, I was never my line about Kanye before, even before all the Trump stuff. I think I said, great producer, mediocre rapper, public a nuisance, which is a little harsh and a little unfair. But I mean, my favorite thing about Kanye is the production he did for Jay-Z. That's I get. Look, I think he's better than a mediocre rapper. I liked college. I liked Graduation, but I don't know. I just never. Part of actually why I'm less harsh on him about all this Trump stuff is one. I mean, I think he's legit going through a hell of a lot. But I just never. I don't know. Kanye, as a rapper, Kanye never meant that much to me. And even like, look, I don't care about people's politics and their art. I really don't. But even like the idea of Kanye as like some type of conscious backpack rapper when he's rapping about like the victims of welfare and Jesus walks, like, really? I mean, come on. And a lot of it, I mean, it's just and look, the Kanye that I'm actually most sympathetic to is he's obviously incredibly talented. Like, I think it's cool that he wants to go to Milan. I think it's cool that he's interested in a variety of different things. I think it's cool that he has true cultural flexibility. But on the other hand, it's like, okay, cool, whatever. I get bored. Rucker Park, game 1 is only number win by 2. Winner is the next president, Biden or Trump. I don't think I know what that question means, but I actually do think that Trump will be beat. Can we get a Warren reaction to Bernie beating her for Biden's VP? You know, I don't understand because I have done so much, and Bernie didn't accomplish anything. He was just a hippie Jew. While I was at wait a second. I must have misread this. Who do I think would win one-on-one at basketball with Trump and Biden? Whew. Are either of them physically capable of playing one-on-one right now? I have no clue. I don't know. Trump is obese, but Biden looks like he can barely walk. I'm going to say Biden, because I feel like I could picture Biden having a better jump shot, and neither of those guys are driving to the basket. Sam impression of him stressed over mixing of foods, preferably Manischewitz, and so it's like we're supposed to keep kosher one time a year. That's the one time I asked to keep kosher, and we can't do that. God damn it. With bringing the troops home being stalled once more and the obvious disregard for public opinion, what's it realistically going to take? I mean, you're talking about the Democrats working in the House to stop troops coming home from Afghanistan. Absolutely obscene. It's disgusting. They're collaborating with Liz Cheney. Read the Afghan war logs. I mean, Bush through Obama through Trump. Nothing but lies about Afghanistan. Look up the TMBS report we did on it. I don't know. I'm in a place where I have to be really honest with you. I mean, I can keep saying, like, there's a reason I'm talking about these integral ideas. There's a reason I'm talking about what a genuine, like, cross-pollinating global movement would look like. I think all this stuff is relevant. But I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take. I think we're in a very difficult spot. And we can keep saying like all these cliches, like, yes, of course, like people need to keep protesting, people need to mobilize. Obviously, there's some good things happening electorally. It's great Jamal Bowman's in Congress, right? But like, what is it going to take for the real reversals of power of something like the, occupation of Afghanistan, ongoing troop presence? I don't know. NOI Obama and the Epstein stuff. It's like, Bill, I hope you got your hitters in place because you know what? This bitch talking. Whew, British devils. Is Ghislaine going to get Epstein? I mean, I look. If there was ever a time to let your mind go in a pure conspiracy direction, it would be this one. Um, and if she doesn't, it might potentially be a very revealing and very fascinating trial, which, again, I hope that people won't make just like tabloid shit. That whole story, that story is about intelligence networks, it's about oligarchy, it's about how power actually works. It's not just tabloid shit. But I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I somehow had just gotten used to the idea that she wasn't going to get arrested. So we will see. Anything else, guys? As always, I really hope, because I come out, sort of when I do these kind of riffs, and I'm just sort of like putting stuff together in real time. So I hope it makes sense. Will Lincoln Project be a force? Will Lincoln Project be a force pro-Trump? Yes, in the Democratic Party, I think essentially. Mike, or some will just go off and be exactly the same Republicans, and they're sort of bounce back. Have you heard about the Nova Scotia mass shooter who was probably a Fed? Yeah, Jacob, I read about that. I don't know if he himself was a Fed, but it definitely looks like he was some type of informant. I only read one article, but that kind of banking activity and the way he wasn't arrested, yeah, it very weird. It actually reminded me of, I just finally read Chaos, which that book on Charles Manson and MK Ultra and all of that stuff, and it sort of reminded me actually that of that story in Nova Scotia, which maybe I should probably follow up on. That actually is relevant for us to follow up on. I read a piece about that, I think about a week or two ago. Anything else, guys? Any other super chats before we sign off? And as I say, definitely let me know. I hope it makes sense, because I'm using these to be, a little bit more informal and riff. Happy birthday, Patrice Lumumba. Thanks for the great work, Mr. Brooks. Keep up the good work and have a wonderful night. Thank you so much. Bless. And guys, definitely watch. Go right now after this, go on the illicit history list. Watch the Patrice Lumumba illicit history that we did with the wonderful Milton Alamati. I love that guy. Go to tmbs.fm to get your merch. It's on pre-order. We have great shirts, American made, union made. Really excited about those. The store will stay open. We're going to keep doing more and more designs. TrueAnon had an excellent episode on the Nova Scotia mass shooting. You should check it out. Absolutely, I will check that out. I don't always have time to listen to everything, but I do. What I've heard of TrueAnon, I like. And obviously, I've enjoyed having Liz on this show. Keep up the great work. Left is best. Thank you so much. Next week, One Love, Left is Best. Next week, Stavros from Cumtown, VJ Prashad. We're going to have a really fun time. Just actually, I don't know when we'll release it, but I just recorded a great interview with Vincent Bevins on the Jakarta method, which is going to come out soon as well. Before you guys leave, please do make sure, what the hell, hit the like button if you haven't yet. Hit subscribe if you haven't yet. and spread the word, let people know. Thanks for everybody talking about how great it is to be a patron. It is. We do really, 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 really good work. Um, and, look, goal is for it to be educational and entertaining. And I think we succeeded that. Um, Conversation last week with Bill Fletcher Jr. was excellent. All of the content, Adolph Reed, Joanna Veast, proud of it. And I really, really, really appreciate all of you guys. And the themes tonight, you'll definitely be hearing a lot more of how to build genuinely global networks, how to move towards an integral age, what that actually looks like, and appreciate all of you. Stay safe, be well, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, get off of social media, and, take good care. Oh, New Jersey primary in the 7th, Russ and Hector and more. Yes, I'll try to get some information about that. There's still some really important primaries with some great candidates ahead that we'll get to as well. Thank you all so much. Be well. Good night.